It was not uncommon in the O'Brien household growing up. We'd be kind of sitting around the house and maybe just kind of being a little lazy. And my parents would give us sometimes an encouragement, sometimes a command to get up and to go outside. We lived in Houston, so the weather was good. We had no excuses. Get up and get active, get out there. I heard later a beautiful description of television as kind of a passive activity. The quote is most credited to the architect Frank Lloyd Wright, but he said that television is like chewing gum for the eyes. It requires very little effort just to kind of sit and watch television. It's a passive activity. We do it when we don't want to expend a lot of energy, when we want something to be presented to us. Nobody would say, gosh, I've had a busy day. I have been watching television, right? It's not an active thing. I say that in light of the gospel today, and what we see, especially in the Magi. What we see in the Magi, in the wise men, is a very active faith. They traveled thousands of miles to find Jesus. They got up off their couch in search of Jesus. When we first moved into the church here 5 years ago, I was talking to a parishioner, and they said, I don't know if I'm going to go to the new church. And I was like, really? It's going to be awesome. Like, you should come. She said, yeah, it's like all the way out on Country Club. 4 miles from our old church. Now, I'm pleased to tell you she comes every Sunday. She committed, made the trip, but there was this sense of just like, I don't know, it's all the way out there. I don't know if I want to do it. Sometimes, right, if we're honest, many times, that's how sometimes we treat our faith. It would just be such an effort to get to Sunday Mass, to get to confession, to come to adoration during the week, right? And then we make excuses, right? We all do it. We all do it. Even in the priest world, there's times when it's like, oh, okay, do I have to go over there? Yes, I have to go over there. We're going, all right? There's days that are like that. We all have good days and bad days. But there's a sense, I think, coming out of this great solemnity of the Epiphany of an active faith, of a faith that is actively seeking the Lord, not passive, not just sort of watching television, not expecting the parish, the church as a whole, or Jesus to come to us. We have to meet Jesus halfway. The Magi went on a great adventure. If the Magi wrote their own autobiography, this trip, this journey, would be the main part of it. This would be what they make the movie about. They set out on an adventure. They didn't know exactly where they were going. They didn't know how long it was going to take. They didn't know what they would encounter along the way. And yet they set out. An active faith is what is being asked of us. And we have these wise men, these Magi, to look at as a beautiful example. And so if we look at our own life, that can be individually, that can be us as a family, that can be us as a parish, right? We can see elements where the faith is very active, right? One of the things I love about our parish, one of the things I love about so many of you, right? There's this innate kind of desire in us to invite people, to go to our neighbor and to say, hey, would you come? You want to come to church with me? Hey, we're having this dinner and this talk. Do you want to come? Right? That's a great thing about us, that we have that in us to want to go out and to invite people in. Right? There's an active nature to that. I love that so many people come to Mass every Sunday. Right? That takes some effort. I would notice, especially those of you with small children, right? It takes an effort. I know it does, to get everybody up and dressed and out of the house, right? It takes an effort. And that's something that I want to acknowledge and that we notice. It takes effort to come and to get here. Many of you take hours of adoration during the week, right? It takes an effort. Maybe you're getting off work. Maybe you're leaving early. You're doing something. You're coming to church when you could be doing something else. It takes an active faith. What's also so beautiful, and this is just so, it goes so unnoticed because we never see it, and that is how the faith is being lived out in so many of your homes. That there's an active prayer life within your home. That there's active charity going on from this parish or from you as individuals, so much of which that I never see or that you never talk about, and that's okay. Right? We're constantly going out and trying to help people. Trying to help people with their bills, help people fix something that's broken at their house, shovel their snow, mow their yard, whatever it may be, right? That kind of active faith is what we want and what we need. And then at the same time, again, if we're honest, there's a passivity to us also. There's a sense sometimes that the parish needs to do more for me. The priests need to do more for me. My spouse needs to do more for me. My kids need to do more for me. My neighbors need to do more for me. And there's a sense that sometimes we need it, right? Sometimes we need some help. And to be able to ask for that and receive it. But a lot of times, we're kind of in a passive mode. We treat our faith sometimes like we do any kind of consumer good. Well, I'll go when things get more convenient. I'll go when they change those mass times to better fit my schedule. I'll go when this or when that. And we put different kind of sort of things on top of whatever the parish might be offering. And it's just something that I want us to work against, that I want to push back on. And that is anything in our faith where there's a passivity to it, right? We want to be a parish, and I want you to be a family and you to be an individual where the faith is alive, where you're as inspired as the Magi to do whatever it takes to live your faith. I know that's not easy. It's sometimes very difficult to live our faith. It's sometimes very inconvenient to live our faith. But that active faith is what is required. There was a time, maybe when some of you were younger, when following Jesus, when being a Catholic, when being a Christian was really easy. I like to compare it to a river, right? The river was going in the direction of Jesus. And you could just, at the beginning of your life, jump in, and the faith was just going to take you. Along the way, you were going to receive sacraments. Along the way, you were going to get faith. Along the way, your family was going to be in good shape. And you just follow along the river, and at the end of the river, there's Jesus, there's heaven, and you're good to go. That's not the world we live in now. The world we live in now, so much of the world today is going in the other direction. We're swimming upstream. It's a lot more difficult than it used to be. To be a person of faith, especially a person of faith in public, is a lot more difficult than it used to be. It comes with it some strings. It comes with it perhaps some persecution. And so we have to be trying harder. We have to be, as we swim upstream, there's a certain activity. You could just lie down and the river takes you. Well, now we got to swim. We got to swim hard because the culture is coming in the other direction. So what we see in the beautiful story of the Epiphany, in the Magi and the wise men, we see an active faith. Maybe those of you who are thinking about becoming Catholic, right? There's a step in that direction. Make an appointment with one of the priests. Let's sit down and talk about it. Maybe those of you who are engaged to be married, right? What's next in your faith? What's the next step in order to become a little more active in the life of the parish and in the life of your faith? Maybe you've kind of been away from the church. I know some people kind of using the new year as an opportunity to get back into the practice of coming to Mass every Sunday. Fantastic. That's a great move in the direction of being an active member of the life of the church. So what is that for you? What's that next step? What's that next thing that you can do actively? Maybe you haven't been to confession in a long time. Let's go. Get moving. Get off the couch. Priests are not going to knock on your door and say, you haven't been to confession in a while, right? You have to come to us. We don't know who you are, and so you get in line and you go. Maybe coming to Mass every Sunday has not been a regular practice, right? We don't take roll. We don't keep track. It's on you to come as an individual, as a family. I would especially say praying in the home, right? This is something that I think far too often we rely on the parish to pass on the faith to our children. When in fact, what our church teaches is that parents are the primary educators of their children. And so does the parish have a role? You better believe it. Your priests and our parish staff and our volunteers are wonderful, right? But we get the kids for an hour of Mass and maybe an hour or so of religious education, of formation, versus them being in the life of your home for hours and hours and hours a week. There needs to be an activeness to our faith. So what's next for you? I don't know what that is, but I think you do. We're in the new year, a new opportunity, inspired by these Magi, to take whatever step is next, so that you and I can be active in searching out the Lord and active in allowing ourselves to be found by Him.